So a common question when it comes to inequalities is, how come when we multiply or divide both sides by a negative, why do we have to flip the sign? Now, a lot of people don't really go through why it's important, but I think it kind of is to get an idea of what kind of change occurs in an inequality. So I'm pretty much going to improvise this entire video. The only thing I had planned is I'm writing this on the top just so we can remember what we're doing. So this is kind of our goal, is to figure out why. So I'm going to write a very basic inequality down without any variables just to give you an idea. And I think a good place to start is if we start off with something with a negative number and a positive number, because we know positive numbers are always going to be bigger. So let's see, let's say we have the number 4. That's a positive number. It's going to be greater than, let's say, -2. So we have 4 is greater than -2. Think of that as a sentence. It's a statement. It is a true thing. We all know that on the number line, 4 is to the right of -2, and all the numbers that are to the right are larger. We know that if someone offered us $4 or -$2, -2 means we would owe them money. So no, we want the $4. That's what's more, that's what's greater. But what if we take this statement, and what if we decide to multiply both sides by -3? Well, we know in an equation, whatever you do to one side, you can do to both sides. So as long as we keep it even, that's what matters. So now we end up with a -12 on one side and a +6 on the other side. Before I put the inequality symbol in, I want to have you take a look now. Here in red, the greater number was going to be the positive number. Now, when we multiplied both sides by a negative number, we ended up flipping where the negatives were. So we kind of flipped the values. A negative times a positive gives us a negative. Now we have a negative number on the left-hand side, and two negative numbers multiplied together gives us a positive number. So in turn, we have to flip this sign in order for this statement to be true. 6 has to be greater than -12. It just has to. It's a fact. If someone offered you -$12 or $6, what would you rather have? Well, this is greater, this is more, so that's what I would pick. But if I were asking the question, I would hope someone picked this because that means they would owe me. Let's do another example just to get an idea. Let's do an example with two positive numbers, and hopefully by then we'll get the idea of why we need to flip the sign. I'm going to do something very, very basic here. Let's say that 1 is less than or equal to 3. Because that's the truth, right? Isn't 1 less than or equal to 3? A lot of people would tell me, hey, that it's not equal to, it can't be equal to. And I'm aware of that, and I know that, but this is not an equal to sign. This is a less than or equal to. So is 1 less than or equal to 3? Well, it sure is. It's obviously not equal, but it's definitely less than. So this statement is still technically true. Now let's go ahead and multiply. Oh, let's try dividing. I think dividing would be good. Let's try dividing it by, let's make it easy and say -1. So we're going to divide both sides of the inequality by -1. That's going to give us 1 divided by -1. That gives us -1. And 3 divided by -1 is -3. Now we know numbers that are closer to 0 are going to be greater when it comes to negative numbers. So here we have two negative numbers. This one is closer to 0. This is now the greater number. So I'm going to change that to a greater than or equal to symbol. Because this number is technically greater than this one. So again, when we divide by a negative, we switch the value. We kind of switch what's bigger, what's smaller, and therefore, in order to keep the statement true, we have to switch the sign. We have to flip the sign. And one thing that's important that I want to point out is when we have an inequality and we start off with an equal to symbol in there, you have to end with an equal to symbol. So even though I know these are not equal, if I start off with a less than or equal to sign, I have to have that equality symbol in my inequality statement. So I hope these general examples kind of help clear up why we have to flip the sign. Again, I think this is a better example. It's easier to see because a lot of people struggle with positive and negative numbers. When you have a positive and a negative, by multiplying by a negative, you're changing the values dramatically. We're now becoming negative. We're now becoming positive on opposite sides. So when we switch that power of having that greater positive number to the other side, you have to switch the statement. And the same thing goes for if you divide by a negative as well. I hope you found this video helpful to kind of clear up why we have to do this for every inequality we come across.